Welcome to Test Your Network, an EXFO podcast aimed at helping you leverage our expertise in network testing and monitoring. Through guest interviews, trending discussion topics, and more, you'll gain actionable insights about successfully deploying next-gen networks, including 5G. Hello and welcome to this episode of Test Your Network by EXFO. I'm your host today, Tyler Kern. Thank you so much for joining me. We are living in a world with an exploding need for bandwidth, where people require connectivity anywhere, anytime, and with the right experience. And this has been brought sharply into focus over the last several weeks as businesses have increasingly moved to work from home. Now, this need for faster and more reliable networks underlines the importance of 5G development as we forge ahead into this new reality. 5G will serve as the underpinning for fully connected industries and cities. Interoperability is crucial for delivering innovative, flexible, and cost-effective solutions. And today I'm speaking to guests from two separate companies who, through their expertise and solutions, are working to make all of this possible. The first company is EXFO, who delivers smarter tests, monitoring, and analytics solutions for fixed and mobile network operators, web-scale companies, and equipment manufacturers in the global communications industry. Their customers count on them to deliver superior network performance, service reliability, and subscriber insights, as well as a unique blend of equipment, software, and services to accelerate digital transformations related to fiber, 4G LTE, and 5G deployments. They also have expertise with automation, real-time troubleshooting, and big data analytics, which are critical to their business performance. The other company today is Xilinx, and they are the inventor of the FPGA, hardware programmable SoCs, and the ACAP, designed to deliver the most dynamic processor technology in the industry. They provide adaptable communication platforms for wired and wireless networks, delivering highly integrated, field-upgradable, and high-performance solutions from the cloud to radios. Xilinx's proven 5G solutions and rich ecosystem offerings enable our customers to deploy fast-to-market and diverse solutions for 5G NR, converged access, transport, and AI/ML. Only Xilinx's adaptable communication platform can deliver the expected user experience in an industry with evolving standards and time-to-market pressures. Our two guests today come from those two companies, the first of which is Sophie Legault. Sophie, please just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you do at EXFO.
Yes, thank you, Tyler. My name is Sophie Legault, as you mentioned, and I'm Director of Product Management for the Transport and Datacom Business Unit at EXFO.
And Gilles, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you do at Xilinx?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Tyler. So I'm Gilles Garcia, and I'm the Director of the wired and wireless communication business at Xilinx.
Well, it's a pleasure having both of you on. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Sophie, I want to start off with you and just ask a question, just as part of the brief overview that I gave of each company and the role that you play in bringing 5G solutions to life. I was wondering if you can go into a little bit more detail about what the expertise is that each of your companies brings to the table when it comes to 5G. So, Sophie, tell me a little bit more about EXFO and the expertise that EXFO has when it comes to bringing 5G to life.
Right. Well, at EXFO, we really work closely with both the network equipment vendors as well as the mobile operators themselves, and that is really across the world. So, and we help them build and deploy their 5G solutions and their services. So, first, we bring our expertise in the lab, where we help them validate our systems, their systems, basically, for new 5G technologies before they're actually deployed into the field. And we help our customers in choosing the right solutions that they want to, we help the customers to choose the right solution and to validate the right solutions that will go into their network. And we're also out there in the field. So we bring that expertise as well from an operational standpoint, where we help the mobile operators operationalize these new technologies, bring these new technologies to the field. Talking specifically like 5G transport, for example, we start by validating the fiber layer and then looking at all these new technologies that are deployed. So we really help build and validate, troubleshoot the 5G network with the customer. So we help them in that environment. And then for Xilinx, and I'll let Gilles add on after that, but they definitely bring that deep knowledge and expertise of the latest 5G technologies. they're really at the beginning of the technology cycle, so we really rely on them for that expertise to optimize both of our solutions before they're actually deployed. So Gilles, I'm sure you'd like to add to the Xilinx expertise that you guys bring to 5G for sure.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sophie. So on top of what Sophie mentioned from the Xilinx perspective, we are a platform provider. So that means that for the wired and wireless market, we have developed a set of devices that are specially tailored toward the 5G market. So on the wireless, we have created a device called the RF SoC, which has a very high integration in order to reduce the cost, the power, and improve the performance for the customers using this device and this platform into their radio or into their base station. And with other devices that we are also working with an ecosystem partner to bring IPs into those devices when Xilinx is not developing all the IPs, in order to accelerate the time to market and the time to revenue of our customers.
Absolutely. So it sounds like between the two companies that there are a lot of solutions and a lot of technology innovation that is able to help advance what your customers are doing. So Gilles, tell me a little bit more about how Xilinx and EXFO work together to create workable, fully formed solutions and bring those to the customers that have been tested and demonstrated. And these are proven technologies that are ready for market and ready to work.
Thank you for the question. So as Sophie mentioned, Xilinx, we are very often at the forefront of the technology, and we are so delivering new devices. And by the way, those devices, one of the first group that are using these devices are the test equipment providers. And so we have been working for years with EXFO, and EXFO is using a lot of the Xilinx technology in their product as well, in order to have their systems, their test systems, working before the operators or the system vendors are bringing up their systems, because they will have to test it. And so it's almost a ripple effect that Xilinx, with the first chips, when we are bringing a new chip to the market, we need to work very closely with EXFO in order to have EXFO, by the way, using our chip and being able to have interoperability between our platforms and their test equipment, so we can prove to the world that, in fact, the test equipments are ready for the prime time. And by the way, that the chips used either inside the test equipment or to be used by the system vendors are also capable to work together. And so that's what we did, for example, for Mobile World Congress. Unfortunately, that was canceled, and for OFC, that was canceled as well in terms of trade shows, where we put together a joint demonstration showing the capabilities of the Xilinx devices, interoperating and using EXFO equipment to generate the traffic and generate the protocols that was required for the demonstration that we were doing. So I'm sure that Sophie will probably add her view to this cooperation that we have between the companies.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Gilles. And as you mentioned it's really a beneficial relationship for both of our companies as well as for our customers. So it really allows us to, when Xilinx or EXFO provides a solution, an early technological solution to our customers, the equipment vendors as a first, for example, we know that they have been tested. We know that they are solid technologies because beforehand we've worked together to make sure that they were fully validated. So when our customers receive our technologies, it's already solid, and they don't have to worry about the solidity of the technical solutions.
Right. There's a lot of peace of mind that comes from a partnership like this, where you're able to test, improve, and make sure that the technologies all work the way that you want before they go out to the customers and before they hit the market. And we've talked a little bit about just the need for this connectivity. It's becoming more and more of a requirement every day. So, Sophie, I was wondering if you could just break down some of the technologies that are enabling 5G to happen, and how they're allowing 4G and 5G to coexist harmoniously right now and moving into the future.
Yeah, and if we look a bit more specifically to 5G transport, to bring all the new applications that are promised by 5G, there's quite a number of new technologies that are planned to be deployed in the transport network, or what we call the Crosshall transport network. That includes the front haul, the mid haul, and the back haul, and there are very strict requirements on that network. Things like latency, throughput, network slicing, and others. These strict requirements are there to be able, as I mentioned, to support all the applications that are promised for 5G. And at the same time, that transport network really has to support the 4G network, because the 4G network's not going away. So it has to be sort of a ubiquitous network that'll support all the technologies. And these new technologies, they're a mix of Ethernet, things like Flex-E, eCPRI, CPRI, as well as O-RAN, and also synchronization technologies like TSN, PTP, SYNC-E. So quite a bit of different technologies, new technologies, that bring new challenges. So the challenge for the operators is really to be able to pick the right technology and the right architecture for their own reality, because there's a lot of different options, and depending on how their network's built today, where they want to go, they really have to pick and choose. They're not going to deploy everything, so that's a challenge. And there's also a challenge from an operational side once that network will be in working in service.
So, Sophie, if I can add something to what you just said, and you have been quite exhaustive on all the type of protocols that need to be supported when we are going through the different 4G and 5G networks. I just wanted to add the that Xilinx is bringing to the market has been done especially for those multi-protocols, multi-standards, multi-requirement type of environment. And so all our platforms are very flexible, programmable, and adaptable to what the customers are looking for. So Tyler, you were talking about how 4G and 5G will coexist. Mm-hmm. Imagine power that we are all seeing, whatever it is, the country or continent we are in, that are used by the operators to put their radios into it. All the towers today have 3G or 4G, and some of them starting to add 5G into it. So that means that now you will have the transport networks that Sophie was talking about, will have to transport a coexisting traffic with different characteristics, different requirements from the pure application or end user perspective. And we'll have to support all the protocols mentioned by Sophie and transport that without losing any parameters and any characteristics or reliability aspect of those different protocols. Mm-hmm. That's really the challenge. And that's where the technology that Xilinx is bringing and the test platforms that EXFO are bringing are allowing the system vendors to develop systems that will really match those new challenges that 5G is bringing to the market.
Right. You're mentioning those challenges, and that's kind of where I wanted to go next, Gilles, is just talking about the biggest challenges and barriers when it comes to 5G and how exactly you're tackling those, and I suppose eliminating those barriers so that 5G becomes more of a reality. Kind of talk me through some of those challenges and what you're doing to overcome them.
Yeah, so one of the first challenges is 4G will not go away. So it's a fact. So meaning that the 5G will complement, will add new applications, new services on top of what the 4G network is doing. So 5G will really bring new set of capabilities, higher bandwidth, new applications, better beamforming for the radio, but will bring challenges in terms of higher bandwidth, means that the throughput that the 5G transport network that Sophie was talking about will have to transport will be much higher. So the first challenge will be on the X-Hall or Crosshall. Secondly, the platforms will have to be much more capable to what they are doing. On the 5G, the latency of the application, since you are running much faster network, the latency that a lot of those applications that want to be run on top of the 5G networks will have very constrained and very strict latency requirements that the 5G transport networks will also have to take in mind and being able to protect through the networks. On top of the radio, of course, and on top of the base stations that will have also to handle those challenges.
Mm-hmm.
One will be the power. Since the 5G will have a much higher bandwidth, you will need higher power to be able to sustain those radios running at higher gigahertz and the transport running at higher bandwidth. And so the power will be another key challenge that the 5G will have to handle. And last but not least, cost, because several studies have shown that the end user at the end are not ready to pay double to what they are paying today on the 4G, but still are looking to have a better experience, new applications, and higher bandwidth with their new 5G endpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. Sophie, do you have anything to add just on the challenges of 5G and some of the hurdles to overcome to kind of bring it to the masses and bring it out to the market?
Yeah, definitely. Additional to what Gilles mentioned in terms of the technology challenge, there's one big one that we're seeing with our mobile operator customers are the operational challenge, the sheer challenge of bringing to life such a massive network where the volume of the cell sites are just multiplied by 10. The volume of fiber deployments are also multiplied by quite a high number. So the operational challenge there, being able to work with their contractors, work with their technicians, bringing that network to life and maintaining that network. Also from a technology knowledge perspective of all that personnel, like I named it before, there's quite a bit of number of new technologies that are not known to the field personnel. So that's quite a challenge, and we meet that every day. So anytime they can have solutions for the field that are simplified, that are faster, that make it easier, that don't demand, in-depth knowledge, that's really things that can help the mobile operators in deploying and maintaining the 5G network.
Right, absolutely. So, Sophie, can you explain a little bit more about transport networks and how your clients can best prepare themselves for how your clients can best prepare their transport networks for 5G and for that deployment?
Yes, absolutely. So, in terms of preparation, as we've been hearing it, the foundation of the 5G network is really fiber. So we've been hearing that for a while, and mobile operators have started to prepare and have started to build that foundation, laying out the fiber. And there's quite a bit of work going on into making sure that fiber foundation is really built properly and built right. And it's very important that it meets the right quality indicators, because that's critical. It's really the foundation of the network. If that is done right the first time, then when you actually put on the new technologies, put on the new services, you have confidence that the network will run right. And then the key elements is once that fiber foundation is solid and deployed right. The important part before you actually start putting on new services, new 5G services, is really to validate the important metrics or the important performance metrics. Like I mentioned earlier, things like, and Gilles mentioned as well, in terms of latency, throughput. Do you have from the get-go the right performance metrics? Verify if they're there day one. Also synchronization, which is a new concern from a 5G perspective, making sure that the synchronization network is solid to carry all these new applications. And that's really the Transport Network Foundation, and it's to make sure that the network can meet the new all these KPIs, and that is ready to support all the new services. That's key from the beginning.
So, Sophie, if I can add to what you just said, and I think you encompass quite a lot of what the clients will have to be ready for. I think that one of the challenge of 5G as well is the standardization, which is still evolving. Again, today,
Absolutely.
16 is almost complete. Release 17 on the 3GPP 5G standard is still up to come. And so I think that as well, when the network infrastructure is in place, they really need to take a platform that can scale and adapt to those standard evolution. And I think that that's something that the client need to take in mind, saying, how can I start putting in place something that will be able to cope with standards evolving over the next 2 to 3 years? And so traffic evolving over the next 2 to 3 years as well. And so still being able to deliver the right services at the right level of quality, throughput, and all the things that we already discussed. So I think that the flexibility, adaptability of the platforms that will be then used for the 5G transport is quite critical. And we are seeing quite a lot of clients working with Xilinx because they need a technology that can adapt to those different changes that they will have to go through over the next years that the 5G will have to be deployed.
Yeah, Gilles, can I ask a follow-up question on that? You talked about that flexibility and the importance of it, right? Just the importance of there being that underlying flexibility for the hardware that supports 5G. And Sophie, feel free to chime in on this as well. Can you explain a little bit more about that flexibility and why it's such a crucial aspect to the deployment of 5G?
Yes, my pleasure. So you remember Sophie mentioned that all those new protocols, reliability and latency that need to be handled for the new 5G deployment. Imagine that you are bringing a Formula One into a mountain road. And imagine what you will need to adapt and what the car will need to be flexible to adapt to a mountain road when you are a F1 racing car.
Mm-hmm.
This is exactly what the 5G will have impact into the networks, is how can you fit those new requirements, latency, higher throughput, new protocols, even new applications that will come on top of that, and network slicing, security. How can you fill all of those constraints into a network if you don't have a flexible platforms and then a flexible networks? So I think that all the flexibility that we're talking about is inherent to what the 3GPP has created as a standard for the 5G. Is there is so many aspects that need to be taken care of, depending of the application, depending of the protocol, depending if it's coexisting with 4G, depending of the distance between sites, that at the end, the flexibility required by the hardware, and by the way, that the EXFO test equipment allow the customer to test as well, because at the end, you will need to validate that you have this flexibility on those different components we discussed. This is what's making the 5G requiring flexible platforms. Sophie, do you want to add anything?
Yes, exactly all of what you've mentioned, and also the fact that a lot of the 5G applications are not known today. You know, there's going to be an evolution. There's going to be new applications come in over the next years that are not even known what they are today. So mobile operators are building that 5G network to support these future application, and they will want to deploy these applications very fast. They will want to deploy these new services, with the touch of a button, and obviously without having to change out hardware or the network. So it's really critical that the hardware that goes in today has the full flexibility to be able to adapt to these new services and support future technologies, future applications. And it's the same for the test equipment. They want to be able to validate and troubleshoot these new services with their existing solutions. So we know that the pace of innovation is going to be really, really fast once the networks are deployed in terms of new services, new applications. So it's critical that the network has that full flexibility to evolve with the services.
Right, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense, just in terms of being able to grow and to flex and to be able to accommodate those upcoming applications. And I know one of the things that's been discussed about this is that there will be new revenue opportunities that open as a result of all of this. And so, Gilles, just when it comes to new revenue opportunities, what are some of those opportunities? What are some of those places where companies will be able to open up new avenues for revenue when it comes to 5G?
So we touch about a couple of them in the discussion and what Sophie and I has been saying. So 5G is really a disruption into the network. So you can expect that several layers of the networks will have to be updated, adapt to the new requirements. So new opportunities for the chip vendors, platform vendors like Xilinx, will be on the different stages of the 5G, from the radio to the Crosshall or the X-Hall, the any hall that some people are also calling it, to the base stations, as well as in the transport 5G that we will have. So we will need the flexibility that our platforms are providing. But then when you are talking about test equipment, and I will let Sophie commenting on that. Let me jump to the operators with new services that they can put on top of the 5G networks, will be generating new revenue for them. On top of being able to connect IoTs all over the world, then future connected cars that will also generate new revenue. So there is really a full set of opportunities for revenue that are coming from chips to services, to platforms, to hardware components, and to test equipment. And I will let Sophie comment about that from the EXFO perspective.
Thanks, Gilles. Yes, from obviously from a test equipment perspective, there are some revenue perspective on the different technologies. All the new technology that is brought in with 5G, there are requirements for validating these different protocols, these new technologies. There's also, with the amount of fiber that's being deployed, there's quite an increased need in terms of fiber monitoring. So making sure that fiber foundation is healthy and working properly, because again, it is the foundation. If that doesn't work, then the 5G network will not work properly. So that's definitely a part of it. If I talk also about the revenue or opportunities for the service provider or the mobile operators, one thing that we're seeing is that there's quite a discussion around new revenues being created by industrial applications. So less about the individual user, the individual with the mobile phone, but more on the different industrial applications that can be enabled by 5G in all the different verticals, either it be manufacturing, IoT, like Gilles mentioned, medical verticals. So it opens up quite a market of new applications and new revenues for the mobile operators, and I think that's where a lot of the new revenue will come from for 5G.
Right. Well, and as we talked about off the top, the need for connectivity and just that requirement has been heightened quite a bit over the last several weeks, just as the world is kind of taken a look at the coronavirus situation. And so there's an exciting future ahead when it comes to 5G, and I appreciate both of you, Sophie and Gilles, for joining me today and talking a little bit more just about the future of 5G, the work that's going into it today, and how your companies at EXFO and Xilinx are working together to make this a reality. So, Sophie and Gilles, thank you again so much for joining me today on the podcast.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you, Tyler. And if I can add something, so stay all safe, work from home, and stay safe with your family.
Absolutely, that's a good message today. Just as the world is dealing with a pandemic, unlike something that any of us have seen in our lifetime at this point. And so thank you all so much again for joining the podcast today. And everybody, thank you for listening to this episode of Test Your Network by EXFO. For more episodes, be sure to go subscribe on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure that you go back and listen to previous episodes, as well as stay tuned for future episodes. So we will have more episodes coming soon in the future. But for today, I've been your host today, Tyler Kern. Thank you for listening.